Hey guys, Zibboyeye or just Zib is fine, and today we're looking at two era-defining movies. That era being the J-horror boom, and those movies being Ringu and its American adaptation, The Ring. Originally released as a book authored by Koji Suzuki in 1991, Ringu proved popular enough not just for one, but two film adaptations. A TV movie followed by the 1998 theatrical film we're looking at today. To distinguish the 1998 Japanese film from its American adaptation, fans and official releases usually refer to it as Ringu. To be honest, I hate calling it Ringu. It's like if someone went, "Hey, what game you playing?" Sonic! But for the sake of distinction, I'll use Ringu. Ringu was a big hit in Japan that sent waves reaching the coast of Hollywood about 5 years later in The Ring, which sent shockwaves of its own as its success inspired executives from all over to phone up Japan and nab whatever horror titles they could get their hands on. Both of these films are trendsetters, but how do they compare to each other? Well, only one way to find out, by looking at Ringu and The Ring. The plot for Ringu is as follows. Following a mysterious family death, Reiko, a reporter, investigates a series of rumors regarding a VHS tape that kills its viewer 7 days after watching it. Discovering the tape and witnessing its contents, she finds herself cursed. After her skeptical ex, Ryuji, views the video as well, the two search for the curse's origin, a girl by the name of Sadako. Things only get worse, however, when their son, Yoichi, plays the tape for himself. With 3 lives on the line, they follow any leads they can in order to find a cure. The Ring practically follows the same beats. Rachel takes the place of Reiko, Noah for Ryuji, Aiden for Yoichi, and Samara for Sadako. And just to drive home how popular The Ring was in America, there have been several times when I've been telling someone about Sadako until I send them a picture and they respond, "Oh, you mean Samara?" If a movie releases outside of the US and there are no Americans to watch it, does it release at all? But that's just a bitter Japanese film fan squabble, so let's get down to the comparison. One takes place in Japan while the other takes place in America. That's it. Zibbo, bye bye! Okay, not really, but there are a few recreated shots in The Ring. The opening scene is practically beat for beat the same. Another common ground is that both films chronicle the protagonist's life, or more accurately, their death. In Ringu, it's labeled by the date, while The Ring charts the number of days since the curse. It's like the characters have an expiration date. The emphasis on their temporalized lives leads us to anticipate that final day. This results in a suspense I love that characterizes both films. But that's about it for similarities. After that, The Ring branches visually from its source material. One thing I preferred about Ringu over The Ring was its visual emphasis on technophobia. The original manages to make TVs look intimidating. I mean, how do you do that? Well, many of the shots have slow, ominous build-up to the television. Characters will put their face up to the screen, bringing attention to the monitor's size. It makes our protagonist appear weaker. The reflection the TV's glass face bears appears as though the TV is unflinchingly returning Reiko's stare. Other times they remain in view behind the character, almost like Michael Myers. They loom in the background as if glaring down the protagonist. It may seem weird to talk about the boob tube like a monster, but it's one of the ways Ringu's shooting unsettles me. On the flip side, The Ring doesn't take this approach. The closest shot I can think of is this one where Noah is examining Samara's room, putting his face up next to this teeny weeny television. It's not very visually intimidating at all. Same with this one in the hospital. Seriously, does this stinky piece of crap strike fear into anyone? There is one moment The Ring has over Ringu, even though it's within the same scene. It's after Reiko/Rachel watches the tape, realizing they're cursed. She confides in her ex. Skeptical, he watches the tape. Afterwards, the protagonist heads to the balcony of their apartment, and here's where the scenes branch out. Reiko looks out into the city while her counterpart Rachel observes all the TVs in the complex. I love this. The inescapability the TVs are presented in reflects their ever-present threat from Ringu. Not to mention shoutouts to my boy I Am Weasel. Another difference you probably noticed between Ringu and The Ring is that in the latter of which, everything is green. I don't know, does dousing the film in Nickelodeon slime make it creepier? If I were to suggest an effective way to have used this, it would be to gradually increase the intensity of the filter to reflect the curse's worsening effects. But even before Rachel is cursed, everything is just as green as by the end. In contrast, the white balance is normal in Ringu. Because of this, Ringu feels more real, and this extends beyond just color settings. The ring has many more ostentatious moments, such as water seeping out of Rachel's phone, coughing up an electrode, or a fly coming out of a monitor. The same could be said for the VHS. Sans the floating letters, the tape in Ringu seems like it could be an authentic recording. This makes it creepy as it's hard to tell how much of the footage is real in the story. As for the tape in the ring, this can't be real footage. The ring has more theatricality than Ringu. Another instance is the deaths. When Sadako strikes, the victim appears like this, while Samara's victims end up like... Ringu is much more minimalistic in presentation, whereas the ring is very dramatic. Personally, I prefer the presentation in Ringu. The average white balance and reserved presentation of Ringu makes it feel more genuine, while the ring's fantastical and over-the-top visuals causes the film to feel distant from reality. As Ringu felt more real, it, along with its threat, felt closer to me. Because of it, Ringu managed to unsettle me more than the ring. The films differ in writing as well. Both films foreshadow the curse's emergence through TVs, however, in Ringu, it's expressed through dialogue.
おかしくなって入院してるって。絶対テレビになるとこ行かないんだって。
While The Ring shows a witness's fear of TVs. Not a huge difference, but I appreciate The Ring's use of visual rather than direct storytelling. Beyond that, the personalities of the protagonists are divergent a bit as well. Reiko is really average, she's very much designed for the viewer to easily identify with. Meanwhile, Rachel often displays arrogance.
You're fired.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm cooking too good a story.
Regarding Ryuji/Noah, the two are fairly different. Ryuji has a few smart aleck remarks.
4人死んでるのよ、同じ日に。
だったらお祓いでもすればいい。
But for most of Ringu, he holds a stoic manner. Noah, however, is written with many more witty retorts.
Should know more about it first.
Well, isn't that why I'm here? So you can benefit from my wisdom?
I'm sorry, sir. We're a mental health facility. Our records are private.
Well, she's been dead 24 years. I don't think she'll mind.
Ryuji has ESP while his American counterpart does not. Ringu gives very few lines of dialogue about it. This only really affects the plot via this scene where his ESP energy engulfs him and Reiko in this character's memory of Sadako's killing. Weird to describe, but you don't really question it in the moment. Although his ESP is more important in the sequel, Rasen, it's not very impactful to the plot of Ringu. Reiko and Ryuji are already playing detective. They could have gathered this information without invading this person's memory. Because the adaptation forgoes that extraneous character trait, Noah's character in The Ring feels tighter. Yoichi and Aiden are the most similar. They both are unexpectedly independent for a child and possess ESP. I prefer Aiden's ESP as it holds more importance to the plot, directing Rachel to Samara's room.
She doesn't like it in the bottom. The horses keep her up at night.
While the importance for Yoichi's ESP is that it allowed him to see a spirit that told him to watch the tape.
ともちゃんが見ろって。
It feels unnecessary. The Ring's explanation is just as believable without the child's powers.
Why, baby? Why? Why?
I couldn't sleep.
The leads have the same arcs, but their subtlety varies. Both Reiko and Rachel begin the film negligent of their son. This is conveyed more subtly in Ringu.
陽一はいいのか？
あの子は慣れてるから。もしもし、陽一、今夜も遅くなるから。一人でできるでしょ。
Meanwhile, this is more apparent in The Ring.
I know that Aiden recently lost his cousin.
Yes, and I'm doing what I can to find him some good daycare.
No,
It's
that's not what I meant. Did he talk to you about her death?
Like you said, he's not the talkative type.
That doesn't mean he has nothing to say.
Rachel's need as a character is to learn to be more attentive to her son. She achieves this by correlating Samara's experience to that of Aiden's.
She just wanted to be heard. Sometimes children yell or cry or draw pictures.
However, in Ringu, there isn't much of an indication for a relationship change with her son. Noah's development is more overt as well. Noah and Ryuji both distance themselves from their child. Both of them need to learn to take responsibility when the curse puts their son's life in danger. This arc is made more apparent in The Ring due to scenes like this.
You wish I was around more?
No? You want to be around more?
The thing is, I don't think I'd make a good father. I don't want anyone else to do it either. Be your father.
I can understand if people prefer the subtle approach in Ringu, but in this case, I favor The Ring. Ringu's lack of focus on Yoichi's relationship with his parents made me forget about him, which is bad when his life serves as a driving force for the protagonist. The focused relationship in The Ring made Aiden far more memorable and present in my mind, meaning the stakes of his life held more weight. The last character I will address is the cursed herself, Sadako, and Samara. This is the character the most different between the two films. Sadako is a girl inheriting ESP from her mother, Shizuko. Shizuko could predict the future. She took this talent on the road managed by a man named Ikuma who would consummate with Shizuko, bringing Sadako into the world. During a show, a man in the audience claims Shizuko is a fraud, immediately dying in front of everyone. Shizuko is blamed for the crime when in reality it was Sadako. Fearing her power, Ikuma threw Sadako down a well where she would become sealed until death. Now let's look at Samara's backstory. After a series of miscarriages, Anna and her husband Richard adopt Samara. Unknown to Samara, her powers start haunting the family, causing Richard to banish Samara to live in the barn. Being awoken by horses every night, Samara uses her power to drive the horses into the sea. Putting a stop to it, Anna pushes Samara down the well that would become her tomb. In terms of backstory, I consider Sadako and Samara equals. Unlike Samara, Sadako kills a person, making her appear more malevolent. However, Samara had a wider range of terror, as illustrated by the responses of some of the town's inhabitants.
See, when you live on an island, you catch a cold. It's everybody's cold. It means ever since that girl's been gone, things have been better.
Both earned their mark of evil, but in different ways. I have no preference here. If there is one difference I hold a preference on, it's the presentation of these characters. Samara is given dialogue.
Can I see my mommy?
Not only that, but in the final scene, the film shows her face. However, in Ringu, neither does Sadako speak, nor do we see her face in full. All we see is a single eye beneath her hair, which even looks inhuman due to the lack of eyelashes. Hearing Samara's voice and seeing her face humanizes her, whereas Ringu obscures all that, making us question Sadako's humanity. Because of this, Sadako appears more monstrous and intimidating than Samara. No matter which story, the climax occurs at that faithful well, however the events that transpire vary. While trying to uncover Sadako's remains, Reiko, exhausted, considers throwing in the towel. In a climax, the main characters should be at their lowest point right before their strongest display, and this scene meets that low point. However, I feel it makes Reiko's character less appealing. Reiko is giving up due to exhaustion, her own pain. She has to have the reminder of her child's soon-to-be death literally slapped into her. Consequently, this paints a weaker and selfish Reiko in a character-defining moment. Rachel has a similar but better executed scene in The Ring.
We're too late. You have to help him. Aiden, it's up to you now.
Rachel, although too accepting death, keeps her son's life and his savior in mind during this moment. This results in a more noble and empathetic protagonist. How our leads arrive at Sadako's grave is different as well. In Ringu, Ryuji assumes finding Sadako's body will lift the curse.
貞子の死体を見つけてやろう。
それで呪いは解けるの？陽一も助かるの？
できることはもうそれだけだ。
The logic behind this isn't really explained, it's just an assumption. It feels like this dialogue only serves as an excuse to get the characters to the well. It's not really driven by a character logic, but rather the ends meet of the plot. It makes the climax feel weaker considering it's based on a baseless assumption. However, in The Ring, Rachel and Noah don't even intend to find Samara's body. The film follows Noah and Rachel gathering leads directing their investigation. This is just where one of their leads led. The plot here is driven by investigation, resulting resulting in a more solid foundation for the climax. Not only that, but I believe it benefits the twist. Both films try to fool you into thinking the curse for everyone has been lifted. By the end, Ryuji or Noah finds the curse isn't over and is killed. It is revealed that the reason Reiko lived is because they had shown Ryuji a copy of the tape. The only way to get rid of the curse is to spread it. Both endings try to mislead you into a false sense of security, but since there's not much security to be had with Ryuji's big assumption, I believe the mislead for The Ring is better supported. I've covered everything I've had to say about these films, but what is the biggest difference to me? The Ring has a far greater emphasis on investigation than Ringu. Not to say that it's completely absent in Ringu. For example, this scene.
噴火。どこの噴火だ？
However, in other cases, you get characters explaining what they discovered from off-screen.
お前も聞いたことあるだろ。リクマン博士は静子を東京に連れ出して実験を繰り返した。超能力の実在を証明しようとしたんだ。
There isn't exactly some breadcrumbs to follow here. It feels like he got this info, well, from the script. It's not as exciting as The Ring, where you are alongside these characters as they make these discoveries, such as Noah breaking into a hospital's archives. The Ring I consider a mystery. Characters are constantly finding leads that send them to a different location, and because of how frequent this is, the film has a fast pace. Meanwhile, Ringu doesn't mind sitting still in its set pieces, allowing the audience to settle in its tone. The extended build-up benefits the suspense of the film. That, to me, is the biggest fork in the road between these two movies. Ringu uses a slow pace to create an impactful atmosphere, meanwhile The Ring uses a fast pace as the basis for a thrilling mystery. From the minimalist visuals to the slow development, Ringu concerns itself with filling the room with an eerie air, while The Ring emphasizes spectacle to excite the audience. Atmosphere or mystery? Give and take. Each film has something the other doesn't, and I can't decide which I like best. When I had first watched these films, I found myself wrapped in the mystery and adventure of The Ring. However, when watching these for the review, I found myself more entranced with the chilling scenes of Ringu. Who knows, maybe it will change again next watch too. I rather like how different both of these films are. It minimizes redundancy if you were to choose to watch both of them, which is a recommendation I wouldn't be afraid to make. No matter which version, I love Ringu and The Ring, and I hope you can too. I've been Zibboyeye, and thank you for watching. Zibbo, bye bye!